Hello everybody, my name is Nicholas Sadowski and I am the host here at Daybreak. Thank you for joining us today. You might notice something a little different about me, but we'll get to that after the intro, so thank you for joining us. Alright, so like I said before the intro, you might notice something a little different about me. Yeah, I did my hair differently, if you don't know. I'm wearing a suit this time, and the reason why is because Daybreak is about to make Daybreak history, not really history, but we're about to make Daybreak history. For the first time ever on this show, we are going to have an adult. So I'm wearing a suit because I'm trying to look professional, and I'm going to hold a poll on my story later if you think I should wear suits for all the episodes afterwards to show consistency. But our first and only guest today, because I have a ton of questions to get through, and I do not have time to have two guests. So my only guest today is an author from the great state of New Hampshire, also our first out-of-state guest. She has a new book coming out later, but it's available for pre-order now. I would like you all to give a very, very to the wonderful Alexandra Duval. Hello.
Hi. Good morning.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Are you well? Are you not sick in anything? Are you all?
Yeah, staying well, staying inside for the most part, especially in this heat. But yeah, staying well, staying healthy.
Yeah, I was outside yesterday, and it was very, very hot.
Very brave. I went out for like half an hour.
It was like 90. I don't know what the temperature was in New Hampshire, but here it was 90 degrees.
Yeah, it was like 92 yesterday. It was crazy.
All right, so we're here to talk about your book. This, unfortunately, it's a little bit out of crop, but it's called I Was Not Who You Were Promised. So I'm going to start with questions about the book, then I'll get into just the general, your writing and everything. So what genre is this book a part of?
I would say this is contemporary fiction or literary fiction. That's probably where you would find it if you were to walk into a Barnes & Noble. That's the section it would be under. It's pretty mainstream contemporary fiction. So it takes place in today's day and age or in the last 35, 40 years. And it doesn't really have much historical context at all. So I would say contemporary.
So if it's now, is this based off of, like, maybe not a real life experience to you, but like of someone you know? Did this happen in real life, or is this, oh wait, that would be fiction, but you know.
I did come up with the idea because a family friend found out a big secret about her family very late in life, in her mid-60s, and it kind of changed a whole chapter of her life, and she got to know a whole new person that was related to her and has, like looks like her and sounds like her, but she's never ever lived near this woman or anything like that. So I thought that was a really interesting idea as far as, like, what do you do if you get to a certain point in your life and you think you really know who your parents were and did, and then you suddenly discover that they have a really big secret they've been keeping from you and everyone else for a really long time, and that secret is a whole person. So it kind of morphed from that very quickly.
So I know the backstory of this book, but I'm going to read the summary for the audience here. All right, so I'm going to try and not to stumble over this. Can you keep a secret? Can you know a thing and never speak of it again? Young, impulsive, and completely sure she has her life figured out, Carolyn's world shatters when she discovers she's pregnant. To make matters worse, she doesn't know who the father is. Unwilling to give up her freedom to become a mother at 19, she runs away and gives the baby up for adoption in secret before moving on with her life, as if nothing happened. But will the choice she made for her independence come back to haunt the new life she builds for herself? It seems like Isabel's life is completely falling apart between fertility struggles and dreaded 7-year itch in her marriage. and dealing with her mother's early onset Alzheimer's disease. She's pretty sure life can't get any more complicated. That is until a woman suddenly invades her
That's okay.
invades her carefully cultivated world and claims she is Isabel's half-sister and was given up for adoption 35 years ago. Can she discover what really happened nearly 4 decades ago when the only person who knows the truth can't even remember her own name? And that's part. An identity crisis is the last thing Gwen expected to have on her birthday. When she discovers she's actually adopted and that her mother has been keeping a very important secret from her, Gwen's world is thrown off axis. Suddenly obsessed with the need for the truth of why she was given up, she finds herself coming face to face with siblings she never knew existed, a world she might have been a part of in another life, and a family secret she is at the center of. Will finding the truth help her regain her sense of self, or will the truth destroy her relationship with the woman who has raised her for 35 years? In order to find out the truth they each seek, these women will discover their lives are irrevocably entwined forever. So that is very descriptive and very well written. We talked about this before the show, but do you write your own summaries or do you have someone else write them based off of the book?
It's kind of a mix. I always write my own, what I want to say about the book, how I want to advertise it to the world. And any good writer gets a second or fifth or 10th pair of eyes on anything they write. So after I write something, I typically throw it to a workshop group that I'm a part of, and they'll give me constructive criticism and feedback and ways to tweak it and make it just that much better. So I do write all of my own things, but I definitely take suggestions from the people that I get feedback and constructive criticism from. So it's definitely not entirely me, but for the most part, yes.
Speaking of feedback, when you send your book to get reviewed by people to give you feedback, what happens when you have to deal with things with feedback that you disagree with or bad feedback? Like, how do you respond to that?
It hurts. It always hurts. Like, no one wants to hear, that wasn't perfect. Especially when it's something that you've spent, months and hours and tears and sweat and all of that going into a project. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt because you're not going to please everybody. And I've discovered ways to ask the right questions because I find a lot of the time people who read something and they're put off by a character or a scene or a sentence, it's mostly because they don't necessarily have the words to figure out why. So when I send my book out for reader reviews before it hits print or the online market, I send a list of questions along with it. Things like, did you fall out of the story at any point? Did you feel anything was lagging or dragging at any point? And I give them these focused reasons as to why it's not working, which also helps me in the long run because it makes the constructive criticism less. I'm expecting it. I'm asking those questions. So it's kind of like I'm preparing myself to hear the worst. And when they say something nice like, I only fell out of the story once because this one scene kind of dragged in this way, the language didn't quite, it pulled me out of the story. There's a variety of things that can happen, but I think setting yourself up to receive the right kind of criticism and not just blindly go in saying, what did you think?
Right.
And it's a long book. It's like 320 pages or something like that. So you can't ask someone a very vague question and have them remember all of the things that they liked or didn't like about it. So it's really important, for me at least, to head some of that off by sending out a list of very in-depth questions that will also fix any of those problems. And they'll fix it with a much clearer sense of what I need to do and make it a more cohesive piece to read. And it's also, those are the people that would normally buy your book if they just saw it on a shelf. So those are the criticisms and feedbacks you want anyway.
I have a question about buying it on the shelf, but with the focus groups that you do and everything to review the book, when you send it out for the first time, then you get the feedback and then you add it in, how many times for example, this book, how many times did you send this out to...
This book has gone out probably 5 different times to probably 30 different people.
Okay.
I have 4 people that have been reading it from the very beginning, from like my very first notes, from just like my very, very rough first draft. And I kind of rotate in. You also, some people will sign, I look for groups that actively beta read and read books for review and help authors get their books polished. So a lot of times people will respond and then they'll realize that it's not the genre for them. It's not the story matter just isn't gonna be captivating enough to them that they would be able to provide me with good criticism or good feedback or any kind of constructive anything, because it just doesn't grab them the same way. I need to find those people that will be a part of my market. So it's definitely gone out, I'd say at least 5 times. It's been edited probably 12 times now.
Oh.
Yeah. And I definitely remember, like, my first really, like, rewrite edit, I basically rewrote the entire book.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes how it goes. Sometimes you'll put it down for a week and say the story is perfect and complete, and you'll come back to it and you'll be like, who wrote this? This is not good. We need to change this, 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 and this. And then you do, and you realize, you know, very few things from the very first draft kind of stay. And a lot of it does change, and a lot of it does grow. I changed the writing style. I made one of the main characters almost exclusively in diary format. So you read her story through a journal type perspective, instead of having her be a first person narrative, which added a level of mystery and a level of depth to a character that's very complicated. And that was something I got off of reader feedback, was they didn't like it that this character was so wordy and lengthy in chapters and scenes because she overlaps in the other characters' scenes. So it was easier to take a step back and remove her and tell her whole story from an inner monologue sort of journal perspective.
I really like that journal I did. That's reading that must be very interesting to, like, you go from an actual descriptive chapter about an actual character and then you go to, like, this journal aspect, which I think is very, very cool.
Yeah.
So when I'm writing questions for people, I have to think of, like, transitions. So I might say, you said this in your answer, so what about when you're dealing with chapters? I've read books that sometimes have 0 transitions between chapters, and it's just sort of like a break and there's a new thing. How do you deal with transitions, and do you have transitions between your chapters to make it smooth?
I would say it depends, because I don't just write contemporary fiction. I do also write historical fiction and, you know, romance novels and things like that. So transitions all change depending on what you're writing and how you're writing it. In this book, each chapter is told from one woman's point of view, and it's told in the first person point of view. So one of my favorite little tweak style things that I developed when I was really young, and I never really got rid of it, is I like telling a scene from one person's point of view, and then I like transitioning into that other person's point of view and seeing the back half of that scene happen from their perspective and then move the story on through this new perspective. So I'm also a big fan of cliffhangers. They keep the page turning. So, you know, you can always end on a great cliffhanger. All my journal entries for this one character, they all kind of end with a question she asks herself kind of thing. Like, who am I? What am I doing? And it leads into what the next chapter will kind of deal with from another character's point of view. So my transitions, I would say, are very subtle. But I do like to link them, and I like to give readers as much omniscience as I have in some situations by giving them that opportunity to read the same scene from another person's point of view. It just adds a layer of depth for me in my writing that I don't see as often as I think could be out there in the market.
This book I don't have it in front of me because it's not you can't have it yet. It's available for pre-order. And I will, when it is available, I will buy it. It will be released September 8th for those watching of this year. So I will buy that. I will take a look at it because what you just said actually sounds really interesting, with the questions you asked yourself going to a completely different character's perspective, but on the same issue. So when in my English class, my teacher always says that you have to peer edit your work because if you look over your own work, you're going to sort of skip over the mistakes and because you're used to what you wrote. Do you ever reread things you've written to see if you get a different emotion out of it? Do you try and read another, like the reader's perspective, or can you not get out of the mindset of I'm the author, so this is?
Yes and no. Certainly, if I've just typed it and I go and I print it out and I start reading it immediately, I can't pull myself out. I can put something down and leave it alone for several days and then pick it up from a reader's perspective. The way I try and get into that mentality is I read those sentences out loud. Rereading something out loud gives you the same kind of cadence a reader would have. It shows you where the inflections are. It shows you where the language gets a little snafu-y or it needs to be tweaked here and there. So reading out loud is probably the best way for me to get into a reader's perspective. And like I know a lot of authors who are in the same level of publishing as me and who are all independent, and they're more than happy to read something and give it that real grading kind of level of editing that you can't really get from a beta reader or a market reader or reviewer, because you just need someone who's also in the biz and knows, like, I know why you put that comma there, but take it out.
I actually have a major issue with commas. You can actually ask my dad. Every time I write something, I add in like
a little comma happy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just when I'm thinking it sounds like it makes sense, but
yeah,
like 15 commas in a row, like this person comma did this.
It happens. I am a very comma happy person, and the thing I have learned the most as an adult is that nobody in the world really, truly, definitely knows where the commas go. So in my opinion, put them wherever you want. But it can become, you'll start as a reader when you read that out loud, because a comma automatically insinuates a pause of some kind,
Yeah.
So if you have 15 of them in a sentence, you'll start sounding like William Shatner really fast. And then she moved towards the door. So yeah. You have to watch it a little bit, but I love commas. They add drama and pause and suspense and they also, but they can bleed into run-on sentences really easily. So it's a very difficult balance to maintain. But yes, I too am very comma happy. I love me some commas.
The issue with my commas is sometimes my sentences are like, this person, even though she did this, and then did it. And like, it's sort of, they should be separate sentences, but I just combine them together because I guess I replace.
That and the semicolon just looks angry. I don't like the way a semicolon looks on a page.
I don't know what that's used for.
Yeah, it's used in place of commas. It's used when you want to, when you think you have too many commas, you would use a semicolon at the end of one complete thought, and then you'd move on without the and. That's really all it is. It's the placeholder for and, if, or but.
I knew that it replaced those words. I just didn't know if. So you could have three commas in a row, then a semicolon, and a bunch of marks. Okay, wow.
Yep. Very, very complicated, especially in the English language.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's very annoying. So I'm going to get back to the book here. What I was talking about before about the shelving appeal. So the shelf appeal. When you're writing a book and you have to get your cover out there, I know that a lot of people say don't judge a book by its cover, but
we all do it.
Yeah. So did you design your own cover and send it to someone?
Yeah, I did design this cover because I'm poor, and I have a little tiny bit. I did one graphic design class in college, and that automatically makes me a professional. So, it's I did it by myself because it was the cheapest option. But I threw that cover at a lot of people who are in the business of doing book covers, or people that already have their books on the shelves. Finding the style that I wanted and choosing, a graphic as opposed to an image was big. I see that a lot in the same genre. So you want to look at what market you're writing to. You want to see what's already out there. My book has a very Jennifer Weiner, I'm not really sure how you say her last name, kind of feel. A lot of family relationship books, family secrets, things like that. And a lot of her books are a beach bag hanging off of a doorknob and the title and her name, and, very nondescript, nothing that would really tell you what the book is actually about. And I know that a lot in contemporary fiction, especially about familial relations, is a lot of the time it'll be a very random image on the cover, and you'll be drawn in by the title more than you are to the picture on the page itself. So for me, what I really wanted to make sure was that the title was the grabber, because in my mind, you get curious, wondering, like, what does that mean? I was not who you were promised.
Right, yeah.
And because it takes place with 3 women, and one woman is the central feature in all 3 of these women's stories, I wanted to have one tree be, like, really bold, and I wanted the other 2 to be faded and secondary. I like the color purple, so that's really why it became purple. But at first, it looked very different. It was very different shades. The lettering was black and white. It was a different font. It was placed differently. Where it says a novel used to be sitting on the bottom of the tree line and not below it. There's just a lot of things that when I, would put it up in my groups and say, like, what do we think about this? What needs to be tweaked? What needs to be done? They'd say things that I didn't see. Putting a novel in those tiny trees at the base is confusing, and it doesn't look right. The sizing of the font, I used to have them spread across, like, all 3 trees, and we wanted it in one. And there's a lot of feedback that you get. So I pushed that cover against, I did that cover about 10 times before it came to this, and it's good. And it's definitely good for an ebook. I do have someone doing a professional cover for when I do the hard copies.
Right.
That'll be a little different, which also just adds another level of marketability, because people that have that ebook with this cover, they might look at a new cover in a hard copy sort of form, and they'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I also want to add that to my shelf. And then they've bought my book twice. So, I did design this one. I do design a lot of my own book covers, at least for e-publishing, because they don't have to be as eye-grabbing as a hard copy.
Right. And by the way, for our audience, at the bottom it says Alexandra Duval is just sort of cut off by the...
Oh, yeah.
Because Instagram is annoying. So you talked about people buying your book twice if you do a different cover. Speaking about book sales, does location play a role in book sales?
As far as region, it definitely does. Some places respond better to certain genres than other places. Like Russia is not a big love story country. If you write love stories, they probably won't sell as well in Russia as they would in France. France loves. There are certain regions where the market really responds. Like Maine is a really big Stephen King, very big horror genre. I know a lot of writers that come out of Maine, and they write only horror or thriller or suspense, because that's what that market is looking for. And I see a lot of that in the Northeast, that very like that Gone Girl or Girl on the Train psychological thriller sort of series, whereas on the West Coast you have a lot of nonfiction, you have a lot of self-help, you have a lot of cookbooks, and a lot of independent nonfiction style books. That's just kind of what the market wants more out there. And then in the Midwest you have a wide variety of things, but like Christian literature in particular is very, very popular between Ohio and the Rockies, and then north and south in there. So it's really interesting when you start looking at what markets you're trying to hit. Contemporary fiction it's a baseline across all. So I think universally it's a good genre to jump into. My next genre is time-traveling romance novels, which is a very different market, and it sells in very specific places. So it definitely, you do have to do a certain amount of research, and a lot of it is trial and error. And I'm still learning, and people who make a lot more money and are much more experienced are also still learning. And it's one of those things that you might think you have the market figured out, and suddenly they want something different. So it's a constant catch up, learn, adapt, grow. This didn't work. This will. Don't give up. Just try something different. It's very interesting.
So I'm sort of getting away from the book, but I want to get back to the book here. what is this? So I've read the book. I read the book summary. So the book to me appears to be about this girl who the mother put her up for adoption, and there was a big lie and everything, and eventually it comes back, and she comes back, and now the three women's lives. Gwen, I'm forgetting the other two right now.
Is it Carolyn?
Yes. I knew there was a Y in one of them, and they all meet each other again. So is there anything else to that, or is that the basic?
That's pretty much it. They're all connected. You find out pretty quickly that Carolyn is Isabel's mother, and she's also Gwen's birth mother, and you have these three different dynamics. I tried to tell a full story arc for each of these women, while also tying them all together into a much larger plot. So you see Carolyn from the moment you meet her when she's 18 and thinks she's got the world figured out, and she's about to go off to New York University and, leave her small town behind and her parents' small town dreams behind for her own, all the way up to the moment she starts realizing she's got Alzheimer's. And those diary pages become like kind of dark and confused, and they get shorter and longer in places, and you go along with her, you watch her fall, you probably hate her for a lot of it, don't agree with her decisions, and then by the end of it, you kind of are left wondering. I want people to wonder if they like her or not in the end of the book. I want her to be the most difficult character to understand, which is why I made her a diary character, because that was the best way to get into her mentality. For Isabel, you have her having very serious fertility issues and also trying to check off all of these boxes because she wants to do these things before her mom is gone. Like, I want to be married by a certain time so that my mother can be at my wedding. I want to have a baby so that my mother can be a grandmother, and living this life for her mother's expectations. And by the end of her personal arc, she realizes that that's not how you should be living your life, and you should be making your decisions for you and what makes you happy. And she comes and has, a moment where she realizes what she needs to reevaluate and what she needs to do in order to really start living her life. And then Gwen is a very solid, stoic character. I wanted her to have a very easy time. I wanted her to be really settled and really grounded, and then to have her entire world just completely thrown off axis, and to have someone who's very grounded suddenly be faced with an identity crisis they never thought would be possible. And what that does with, her relationship with her fiance, and what that does with the woman who raised her for 35 years, and, rebuilding a relationship with your mother after you discover she's been lying to you for 35 years and that she didn't trust you with this secret about your own identity, kind of thing. So, and then it all ties together where these three women have to meet and interact and find out the truth of why these events happened the way they did, and who the father of, who's Gwen's father, and where he went and what happened to him, and how these two women forge a new relationship with each other, and how they move forward in the wake of realizing that each of their parents were people, and they're not superheroes, and they make mistakes, and they keep secrets, and they live their life, and learning to respect that, and meeting your parent as a person as opposed to the superhero we all kind of think of them as. So I wanted to tell three specific stories, and then I wanted all three of those stories to be part of a larger one. So it's kind of like 4 plots in one, which is kind of fun.
We have a couple questions from the audience.
Oh.
One of our audience members asked, how does it feel when you finish writing a book? Do you miss the characters?
Yes, but not for long, because most of the time I have to go back and keep playing with them and keep tweaking them, or one of them will tell me something I didn't know about them before, and I'll be like, oh, I wish she had said that. 3 weeks ago when I was writing that chapter, but I guess I'll go back in and fix that for you. So it definitely, it's a moment of relief and also a moment of longing. And if there are any artists in the audience who like draw or create in any way, or like when you make a song and you're constantly tweaking it and changing like one note and these kind of things, you'll always be left thinking it's never really done. I'll be 50 years old and still thinking to myself, I could have changed this one thing and it's not quite perfect and I could do more. So it's having the strength to step back and let it be done and marinate for a little bit. But it's definitely, I'm relieved because I hit the end, typed those words, always love doing that. And then I also immediately long to go back in and perfect it even more. And then I have to force myself to sit back and not do that.
So when I finished school, I have the alarm system on my phone. I was slowly turning them all off after every class had finished on the last day of classes. And that last thing I turned off, which actually was my social studies class, were like, oh, it's over. And they're like a happy, but like you're sad, like, oh, it's over. Like, I don't want to leave. I like the school year and everything. So when you have typed the last word and put that period in, and then it's like, it's done, you get that like happy, sad feeling?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And also a little bit of anxiety because you're always, is it good enough? Is it done enough? You know, that, and it makes the bitter part of that, the happy, sad, it makes it much easier if I say to myself, well, it doesn't have to be the end. You can go back in and do more. And it takes more courage and more strength of will, I think, to sit back and say, no, it is done. It is done. You have done everything you can for these characters. You have told their story as best you can. You have honored them and their lives. And they never really go away. So I'd say it's definitely bittersweet, but mostly sweet because the finishing it's such a long and draining and emotional process getting a book done and feeling like it's really done. So I'd say the sweet more outweighs the bitter.
That's a good quote.
Thanks.
We have another question. Have you ever thought about how your life would change if this book sells 1 million copies?
I have. I think that's one of the things that made me always want to be a writer instead of an actress or, you know, on TV or in a really public forum is you can be a very, very well earning author and have a certain level of fame and still be able to walk down the street and still be able to play with your kids and not be bombarded by paparazzi, and the way being wholly in the public spotlight will change who you are and how you approach life. So I think about it as, I think selling one copy of my book would be incredible. I think if I sold 1 million copies, I would be flabbergasted. Just, I can't even imagine it. And I think I have to work really hard at making sure that I stay as normal as I can in the wake of something like that. So it's more, how do I remain as true to my normal life that I'm living now that I am when I'm selling 1 million copies? So I don't want my life to change too much. I'd be one of those people who won the lottery and probably still went to work for a couple of years just because I like people and socializing and things like that.
So when I am putting stuff on YouTube, right, and YouTube will notify me, or I can just look it up on my channel analytics, how many views I have, how many watch hours there are, and it's easy to check. So when you have a book, it's not digital. So if you sell a book, do you get notified when you sold a book? Okay.
There are tracking methods because even if I'm selling it through Barnes & Noble, they still order a certain number of copies, and I'll get notified when that's running low or when they run out of a shipment. Same thing with printing through Amazon. Like, people essentially buy your paperback and then it gets printed by Amazon and then it gets sent to them. It's not necessarily something that I would have crates and crates of. So everything is, in today's age, everything is pretty much immediately documented, and if not, it's usually like 24 hours. I look at my sales reports like once a week. I have a program called Book Report, and it links every platform that I'm selling a book on, even like if I was selling it from my personal website. It would link all of that information, and it would log every single sale that I've made across all platforms, which is really cool, and it's a great way to track what platforms are selling best for you, which then again helps you tweak and grow faster and better and make more money and create your backlist a lot faster. So it's yeah.
We have another actually really good question from the audience. I actually really like this audience question feature, but he asks, in music, when you have a song, you can re-release the song like as a remaster, like the Beatles have remastered a number of their songs, or like if they redid, well, a company redid Let It Be and Hey Jude like 2010 as a remaster. Mm-hmm. Can you ever, as an author, re-release a book that you might have changed over the years before or after you've published it the first time?
Yeah. It's very easy. It's very easy to do. It's really just being transparent about it. So if I was to do that on Amazon, and in the description of the book, I would probably say, I would make like a starred, an asterisk sort of note that says this is the second edition. It has 20 more pages and 5 more new scenes. Because, someone who liked that book the first time it came around, if you're making it better or you're rebranding it in any way, it might make it even more appealing. And again, they've bought my book twice. So that's, always the goal, which is like I could remaster it and do a new cover on the ebook. I could remaster it and do a new cover on a paperback or a hard copy, or I could have 3 different covers for all 3 sizes and print options. I've seen authors completely unpublish their books and do an entire rebrand, new covers, new blurbs, more info, better writing. It's very doable, and a lot of the times it can help people who see their sales kind of flopping and floundering a little bit. It usually means they need to go back and tweak something, and rebranding happens on all levels of business. So it's very easy to do. It's mostly just making sure that you're transparent about it, and telling your readers, this isn't the first time I've done this. This is a new addition I've done to this thing, and I've tweaked these things to make it better for the readers. So as long as you're transparent about it, it's very easy to do, and it takes almost no effort. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so we actually have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to ask 2 more questions.
Okay.
The answers have been very interesting, but unfortunately I have 45 minutes and I have a party to get to after this. So my last question, just in general, is when you're writing a book, what do you write on that you think is the most helpful thing to write on? Do you write on like a computer? Do you write it out? Do you have a typewriter that you write on? What do you...
I love my Surface. It's like a hybrid. I can turn it into a tablet, and I can also write like it's a laptop, which is really awesome. I have journals lying around everywhere because I'm a big believer in when you think of something, write it down, you will forget it. So I mostly do computer. I do a tiny bit of handwriting, mostly notes, mostly just thoughts, very vague, questions to myself, or maybe add this line here. Or if I'm in a place where it's very analog, like the beach. I love going to the beach and I love writing on the beach. So I'll do a short scene on paper in a setting like that. But I'd say 95% of the time I'm on my laptop.
Final question for this interview. Where can people find this book?
People can find this book on Amazon under Alexandra Duval. You can search for my name, or you can search for the title. In probably October, it's going to be wide, and I believe as long as I go through all the proper channels, which I have just started, ideally I might be able to get it on the shelves in Barnes & Noble. But you'll also be able to order it from my personal website, which is alexandraduval.com. It's not quite live yet, but when it is, you can order it from there directly, or you can order it through Amazon. Up to you.
And like I said before, it will be available just to buy and get it, like Amazon, like 2-day delivery or whatever, on, whoops, I got rid of it. I think it's September 8th. So September 8th, You can actually buy it then, but it is available for pre-order right now. So if you go on Amazon, you can pre-order it. And unfortunately, it is 10:40, so we are all out of time for the interview, but that does not mean that the show is over.
Exciting.
We have the first time we've ever played this game. It's called Read My Lips. And I actually have a graphic. The graphic's weird, but it's the only thing I could think of. So I apologize to the viewers.
Ooh, I like it.
It's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
All right, so Read My Lips. So if you have watched Jimmy Fallon in the past, he does a segment called The Whisper Challenge. And it's basically where the other person puts on headphones with super loud music, and the person says a statement, and they guess what it is.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't have the music. We can't really run a wire up to New Hampshire to get the headphones. So we'll just be mouthing the statements instead of saying them.
Sounds good.
So I've chosen 3 statements. Alexandra over here has chosen 2, and I'll start and finish. So the first statement that I have for you.
Ready.
This is going to be so weird. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Nope, that's wrong.
Peanut butter and applesauce.
Yes.
Hey. Okay, now
right. Yeah. I have no idea.
Do I do it one more time, or do you get? Okay.
You stayed on topic?
No. Oh, I gotcha. Hot glue guns are dumb. I say that because I have been battling with one for the last week, and I hate them. It's my current nemesis, and they are dumb, but they're very necessary. So
yes, I have burned myself many, many times.
So many burns. Oh God, it's like they're so old. They've been around forever, and we have yet to make them more efficient and less burning. Ugh.
Yeah, the issue is I don't think that we can do it without burning because you have to have that hot tip at the end.
It's a bad cycle. It's just not my week with hot glue guns.
All right, so this next one is actually very personal to me.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Billy Joel is awesome.
Dang it, you're really good at this. Or I'm just very predictable.
No, I'm someone who looks at people's mouths when they talk. I'm not necessarily an eye person. I don't know why. I've always looked at their lips, so I'm a little bit of a lip reader.
That's why you chose this game. You knew you'd win.
Did I know I was going to win, or I just want practice? That's really what it is. Okay.
Oh, crap. You're going to destroy me.
Are you ready?
I look at people's eyes. Okay, go. Baby aloe, baby something.
You got most of it, yeah. Baby aloe, baby mint. Because I have a baby aloe plant and I have a baby mint plant, and I'm very excited about them.
I'm giving myself a half point for that one.
There you go. Yeah, you get a half point. We'll give you a half point for that.
Okay, and this is the last one.
Oh, wait, do that one again? Ooh, I have no idea. Mick Jagger? I don't know.
The statement was, I was not who you were promised.
Ooh, you got me. I can't even read my own title. Nice.
All right, so that's all the time we have. That was a fun game. You destroyed me at that game.
You'll just have to practice next time.
Next time we do this, I'll be paying attention to people's mouths way more often now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming on.
I really had a good time.
Me too.
And I hope to be back soon.
Yeah, whenever you write a new book, feel free to come back on.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right, so that was Alexandra Duval. It was an amazing interview. It was a 40-minute interview, so we didn't have 2 guests, but hopefully that's fine with you guys because, I mean, that was the first time we've had an adult on. That was the first time you've had an accomplished person on. And again, you can find your book on Amazon. It's called I Was Not Who You Were Promised. It's available for pre-order now, and it will be available for regular buying on September 7th. So please go buy that book. It sounds amazing. I will post her Facebook and her Instagram on the YouTube video and in the description of this video, which will go on Instagram. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. But before I go, we're starting a new program on Daybreak called the Shout Out Program. It was thought up by the amazing Board of Ideas member, Riley Krovinger, who I've talked extensively about a lot of programs that we've been doing. And she came up with this because she wants to wish her friend a happy birthday, but I will not do that just yet. And so today I want to thank the 2020 graduates for the towns I know. Dover, Sherborne, and Norwell. Dover, Sherborne graduated on Wednesday. We technically are graduating August 1st, but school ended for us on Friday, this Friday. So I want to congratulate the 2020 graduates. They've put up with a lot of weird stuff that's happened, and you didn't really get to have the prom or anything. I know here we had a parade for the people, but it's not the same, and you've had to go through a lot of problems and everything. But you've went through it, and guess what? Now you have 4 more years of school, and you have to go through to college. So I want to wish those people good luck at college. And if you just graduated like freshman year or sophomore or whatever, you get another year of schooling after that to enjoy the rest of your high school experience. And I know some people I know graduated middle school. So to all the people in 2020 who graduated 8th grade or the school, congratulations to you, and I wish you the best of luck next year and the years to come. My next shout out is to all fathers out there. I want to thank my dad. My dad has been super supportive in this. He did the sign, actually. It's an awesome sign. I love it very much. So I'd like to thank my dad. He's been super supportive of everything I've done. Critical, but the criticism has helped make it better. And I just like to thank him for all the work that he's done for me and for our family and for all the people he knows and everything. So thank you to my dad, and thank you to all the dads out there. And finally, we have our last shout out of the day. This is actually a person. Shout out to Andrew O'Connor. You are the father of someone, so happy Father's Day to you, and hope you enjoyed the shout out. Next week, we have our rescheduled guest, Bianca Anderson, and we have our first guest from New York. We have Emma Thompson on. So I'd like to thank you all for watching Daybreak. Thank you all for showing up at 10 o'clock in the morning. If you couldn't guess before, I don't know if I said this before, but I am wearing a suit today. I will be putting on a story to see if you want me to keep the suit. I've not worn this tie before. I really like this tie. But I'd like to thank all of you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. And next time is the Season 3 finale. So it's going to be a great episode. It's going to be the same length as always, but it's going to be the finale. And then after that will be Season 4. If you want to watch this because you missed something, please go check it out on YouTube. It'll take me a little bit longer because I've found some new things to do. So it'll probably be out in the next hour, hour and a half. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for all that showed up. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching on YouTube. And I'll see you next time at Daybreak. Bye, everybody.